Great Friday evening, everybody, and welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast. I am one third of your hosts on the Hearts of Men podcast. I am Coach Dwayne Dwyer, and accompanying with me is my great friends, my brothers, Mr. Roland down the street, and also with us, Chris from across the table with Chris, but I always call him on the other side of the table because that's my dude, right? So, gentlemen, welcome to tonight's shows. How's everybody doing?
I'm well. I'm okay. I'm okay.
I, I like it. I like it.
I'm doing all right too. I'm here.
I
I
love it,
made it.
man. I love it, man. It's Friday. Everybody had a great week. Everybody had an opportunity to digest some of the things that actually happened this week, and I kind of want to get into this discussion now. You know, tonight's topic, which I think is just a fantastic topic, and we talked about it before we got off last week's show. We're going to talk about the pitfalls to not being financially literate. Now, this is a very important topic. I believe. Listen, I'm just telling you right now. If you have not, took the time and shared this, if you have not put this out there, if you have not let everybody know that we'll be talking about this, please message them. Please get them on the horn right now because we gonna talk about money. That's just what it is. So that being said, one of the first things I really want to do is kind of start off with definitions, right? Because I think definitions are important. The ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills, including personal financial management, budgeting, and investments. I think that's important to understand because the key takeaway from this portion of the definition is the understanding and the effective use of various skills, which means that we have to practice these things over and over and over again to get to the point of actually being able to use them in a more excellent manner. But here's the other part to it as well. Financial literacy is the foundation of your relationship with money. If you ever heard me talk about relationships, I say everything is relationships, and money is not exempt. We have a relationship with money. And one of the other pieces I want to bring to the table is that the earlier you get started, the better you are. And so I want to make sure that everybody understand that because when it comes down to financial literacy, it starts early. Whether you can be financially literate or financially illiterate. So with that being said, gentlemen, let's dive into this thing. When we start talking financial literacy, like how did that look for you guys? Like when did you get started? Like when did you get to the point of understanding like you know what? Financial literacy is a thing and I need to be a part. I need to get a grasp of it.
Rolling.
Okay. I think for me, it may have been a few years back because being into the military, I think the military mind has two mindsets. Where we at? There we go. Two separate mindsets where you have the officer side and you have the enlisted side. And I think on the enlisted side, we aren't necessarily taught the fundamentals of how to manage your money so that you stay ahead because I can speak for myself. I got to a point to where I had to re-enlist because I had a check coming in. But along with that check, I knew how to make bills, and I knew how to pay bills, but I didn't know how to save. I didn't know how to budget. I didn't know how to do any of those things. So while I was in 220 along with you, what I learned, I forgot who I learned it from, but every soldier that came through me, I made sure that they had to go through sign correct command finance specialist.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you had money problems or not, you were going to set up a budget. It wasn't saying you already had money problems, but I wanted you to know how much money you had and how to manage your money because when I first came in, they gave, it's just like college. They give you credit cards, they give you all these things to put you in debt. And
Yeah.
when you start to get in debt, it's just like a snowball effect and you don't know how to get out of it. Then you have the payday loans and all those things.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
Well, for me, I would say it was about 6 years ago when I started working in credit repair, and I started looking at how I had all of these clients who were in all of this debt and who had all of these things on their credit report, And the more I worked there, the more I learned all of the things that I was never taught. I was never taught about the 5 components of a credit score. I was never taught about having a bills account, a spend account, and a save account. I was never taught how to budget. I was never taught any of that. I learned that at a job 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and it kind of helped me from there.
Yeah. Now this is good. Roland, I'm a lot like you, but I think I developed a degree of curiosity early because I don't know what happened. Like where I grew up, like money was a thing, but it was a thing that was kind of outside of my reach. You know what I'm saying? So I got to the point to where I developed a degree of curiosity, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to start reading stuff that actually teach me stuff that I can use. So I wouldn't read books like just for leisure entertainment. Like if I read a book, the book had to do something for me. It needed to be something that I can action. So I used to just get books like Money for Dummies or stuff like that, and then I would just start reading. And then, like you, I don't know what happened. It just kind of something clicked one day, and I realized that very same thing that you were saying on the officer side of the house. As soon as they joined the organization, they got all of these different classes that kind of taught them some things about money management, whatever the case may be. On the enlisted side, that never happened. And so, for me, I was a little bit disappointed that two different sects, same organization, one get treated like this, one get treated like that. So I decided to say, you know what, for me, I'm just going to make sure that I have a pretty decent understanding of money. I may not have a good control of it just yet, but I can't control it until I understand it. So I say I want to understand it, and then I want to start sharing some of the things I understand. And so I went from the whole budgeting thing, like Roland started talking about, to getting to the point to understanding some aspects of investing, and then I started digging deeper into credit repair, or just credit repair and credit as well, because like I don't know, maybe you guys can relate. When I first went to college, long, long, long time ago, right? They just randomly gave me this credit card application. I was like, "Oh, pre-approved. Yep, send it
Yep.
off." First thing I did, I bought a new pair of Jordans. The dumbest thing I've ever done in my life, right? Just being honest. So, with that being said, I realized I made some mistakes early on, and I needed to find out how to fix those mistakes in my life just so I can pass on those lessons to anybody else. So, great start to a great topic. Listen, I'd be remiss if I don't address the people that are actually tuning in. If you tune in every week, I want to make sure that I greatly appreciate I want to make sure that you know that I greatly appreciate you. We look forward to your comments. We look forward to the messages that you send, and we want to make sure that we address them as they come up on the screen. Also, if this is your first time tuning in, go ahead and hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Go ahead and hit the notification so you can be notified every time that we go live. And last but not least, every Friday at 8 p.m., you will find us here. Rain, sleet, or snow. I promise. I'm traveling and I'm still here. So just tune in. We got you. Um, so yeah, let's continue to dive into this financial literacy thing because I think it's important. Shout out Michelle Ray, Cassandra McKenzie, Michael Hayes, brother. Good to see you again. You get just shout out to all you guys. So as we dig into this topic of financial literacy, please put in the chat your thoughts, your comments, and your added perspectives when it comes down to the importance of financial literacy because we're going to talk about some of the things that we ran into when we were going through that got us to the point of saying, hey, this thing is important. I need to dive into it. I started off by kind of injecting some of my story in there about the pre-approved application, credit application that I received when I was in college. Again, didn't know any better, right? So I just went and sent it in. They sent me a credit card because I had a student loan. It's mistake number one, student loan, right? I had a student loan, and then I just got the swiping. Kid was going to school fresh. I was clean. You know what I'm saying? I looked like $1,000,000, but was worth about 250, $2.50 that is. I'm just putting it out there. That's the piece that I wanted to address for me up front because unfortunately I didn't get a whole lot of conversation growing up. So once I got to the point to where I got to the point of managing money, managing credit, I mismanaged it. So I kind of want to start off there. What was your first point, guys? Where did you first, as you can remember, right? When did you first mismanage money, credit, or whatever that looks like?
Well, I think. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Now I was about to say I did the same thing you did. I got a student loan, and then Capital One sent me 2 credit cards, one little basic one, and then a platinum card. and I was working at a sneaker store too. So I had every pair of sneakers that would come out. And I'm thinking I'm doing cool because I'm getting them at a discount. Nah, you forget you got to pay that money back. Didn't nobody tell me that. I was just thinking it was free money. And then I get that bill and I'm like, didn't nobody tell me this? So yeah, after that I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this no more. I'm cool. I'm good. And to know that, and then you gotta wait like 7 years and 180 days for that stuff to fall off of your credit report just for you to look good again. Nah, I'm cool. I'm good.
Yeah.
But these were all things that we weren't taught. We
Yeah.
weren't taught this coming up. Like, no, and it's not their fault. They didn't know what they didn't know.
Right.
Now we know. So what they say, when you know better, you do better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about you, Ro?
Oh man, I think I grew up in an environment where everybody had a hustler's mentality. Where when I was younger, we were probably 8 to 10. We had our first job was like a paper boy, where you had to walk a couple miles down the street, and you either had a wagon or you stole a buggy from the grocery store, and you got your papers in there, and you went and did your route.
Yeah.
And so some people they paid every 2 weeks, some people paid every month. But we knew when the large payments came in, and we would get robbed, quote fingers in the air somewhere, get robbed that week. And so when whatever we did, my grandmother, she would always say, we had to give her our money, because it's my great grandmother raising us all in the house. And when she would get the money, she would divvy out what she wanted us to have. So what I would do is I would save my money. And I'm doing just like y'all early on, but all I'm doing is saving up to buy a pair of shoes,
Right.
to buy something, to spend it. And then when I came in the military, I already had 2 kids, and they gave us that checkbook. Checkbook meant I had money. That's what I thought, at least.
Right.
So I'm up here, I'm burning the city up. I'm writing checks. I got hot checks. I'm paying $30 for a bad check on top of what I owed. And so early on, I experienced that. But the hustler side never left me. So I was the dude that, because I was so in debt, but I still had bills and everything, I got my check and I needed extra money.
Yeah.
So I was the dude selling J's out his trunk, selling computers, doing all these things because I mismanaged the money that they gave me. So I figured I'd get more. And all that gave me was more money to mismanage.
Yeah. Now, I love that idea, and I'm glad you guys brought that to the table because you're right. Like, when you really stop and think about it, it was like at a certain point in our life, we were actually trying to get money to acquire stuff, right? And so we're looking at money as a way to acquire stuff and not necessarily looking at money as a resource that can set the conditions for our future. And then lo and behold, you get to the point to where, you decide to tie your life to a person. So you get married, right? You don't have a good understanding of money. You have that. And I think Brother Hayes mentioned this earlier, right? So because we're illiterate, right, we got that knowledge gap, we got that wealth gap, and we also have that ownership gap, right? So ownership to us looks like a thing, but it's not the thing that it's supposed to be. When we start talking about wealth, I had no idea what wealth was. I mean, I can go to websites and read it, but I didn't see anybody in my neighborhood who I would consider to be wealthy, right? So when you start looking at stuff like that, I didn't have a good model, and that's the best thing to consider. So when we start looking at these things, like how do you get stuff, and now you done tied yourself to a person, now y'all married, decide to have kids, whatever that looks like, and these same things, whether you believe it or not, you're modeling this behavior for that child to mimic as they become older. So unfortunately, when you look at the concept of financial literacy or the lack of it, that actually gets passed down to the kids. And what do? Daddy, can I have? Daddy, can I have? Daddy, can I have? Daddy, can I have? It becomes a song, right? And every time you come around the corner, you become a walking bank book, right? So it's funny. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let me make sure I address the comments because I appreciate you guys. Let me see. Michelle Ray says, along with the finance charge, if you don't pay oh my God, that is a great point.
Yeah, nobody told me about finance charges and interest. Somebody tell me that.
Yeah, man.
Wish I would have learned that early on.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. And it's kind of like a trap. We're going to give you this money, but you don't realize we're going to tack 22% interest rate to the money that we're going to lend you at this particular
Yeah.
point in time. Right. So we, didn't have that discussion. And I didn't really learn that till later. So great point. And I'm glad you brought that to the table. Brother Hayes says I put 3K. Let me see. Brother Hayes said I put 3K in the front end of a 1984 Audi. Yeah. It's fortunate that you had the ability to do that. Me, nah, I wasn't doing it like that, man. I was hurting. You know what I'm saying? So my first car, I was fortunate to get it. I didn't, and this brings up another concept, and Chris, you touched on it, the concept of credit. So again, because of the credit cards that I got early on in college, I got my feelings hurt the first time I decided I want to go buy a car because I didn't go and get what I want. I got what I could get. That's a whole different feeling. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Roland. You about to say something?
Oh, I'm with you with the car because remember, that's when everybody started getting rims and they started to finance your rims.
Oh my God.
And one time we went, I ain't even go drop his name, but he's a soldier, former soldier. That's when we got American Express used to be the travel card for the
Yep.
Army.
Yep.
It didn't have a limit. Back then it had no limit. So you got American Express to travel. We had young soldiers with American Express, might as well have been a black card. We went to San Antonio. He hit the rim he hit his rim on the curb. He done went out there and bought some rims for $10,000
Oh man, come on.
on the credit card. So nobody knew until we get back, and you got to get back. You got to pay all that money at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And he get back and he got our 15 and the whole nine because nobody told us about these things. So when you get your credit cards, nobody told, oh, don't go with 30%. Because a lot of people tell you, well, credit cards are bad. No, credit cards are great.
Yeah.
Credit cards are great. When you mismanage and misuse them, they're bad.
Yeah.
Debit cards are bad. Credit cards are great.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I do flip the credit card deal. Like I use credit cards, pay them off at the end of the month, and get whatever they add to it. So if there's points, if it's money, I get it all. So
Fly free, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I like what Tim says here. Shout out to Tim Finney, man. That's a great young man. I'm proud of him, man. I just want you to know that. And go ahead and hit the like and the subscribe button to like. And it's a pleasure to have you on with us tonight. So graduating high school and trying to pay for college out of pocket. There's so much information that is not taught for student loans, overall expense. Oh man, listen, I'm just going to be honest with you. Going to college, that colleges is a business. I mean, have you looked at the price of colleges these days? Man, it is ridiculous. You're looking at anywhere between 40 and 70, sometimes $80,000 just to get a degree. So
The
it is
university in my city is $40,000, and I
University
think
of who?
Toledo. It's a
Okay.
$40,000 college. Didn't know that.
yeah. And imagine paying that out of. Imagine being a dad, a parent, mother and father, a family. You got other kids, and unfortunately, you make too much, so you're not going to get the assistance. Let's just say my child didn't get the scholarship because, of course, they're having fun in high school like I did, right? And so they didn't get a full ride scholarship, and now we got to pay for that child to go to college. That's a lot of money for a family to fork over. Like you literally have to put your life on hold to pay for your child to go to school, if you have the means to do so. But imagine now being the child who parents can't afford to pay for them to go to school, but they make too much money for that child to get the assistance. And I think that's what Tim is talking about right here. Like he came out of pocket big when it comes down to that. So that is huge. Thanks for bringing that to the table, man, because you're right. Let's kind of I mean these guys they're putting it together in the chats, man. I'm loving it. I love it. I love it. Shout out to you guys. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. So let's kind of talk budgeting real quick because I think we got to have a starting point, right? So for me, I never took a budgeting class, just to be honest with you. So everything I learned about budgeting, I learned from myself. But incrementally, what I found is I got better at budgeting, especially when I took my first accounting class right in college. I learned a lot about budgeting. What I learned is that a lot of times, and I think in most cases we don't really know it, a lot of times, especially when you're getting started off in life, you don't make enough money for the life that you're trying to live. And so budget kind of reveals your spending habits to you. So for me, it was a thing to say, hey, we need to scale back on this and scale back on that. So the question I want to ask you guys real quick, when you first did your budget, right? What was the eye-open experience for you? Like what did you learn about yourself?
I learned that I spent way too much money on fast food.
Yeah.
Way too much money. I remember one month I spent $4,000 on fast food. I immediately got upset with myself. I'm like, "Are
Say
you serious?"
$4,000.
Yes, like it was stupid. And I
Yeah.
said, "Okay, I'm never gonna do this again." And then I got on Pinterest and I started printing off recipes and I started going to the grocery store and making my own stuff
Yeah.
$4,000 on food.
on fast
Hey,
food, not just
right.
food, fast
Fast
food.
food.
I think his stove has spider webs on it, man.
Nah,
Hey, it
this
had
was
to.
this was years ago. If you see me now, listen, listen. I used to post what I cook. Like, hey, I know how to cook now. You know why?
Yeah.
Because I can take the same $40 that I was gonna spend at this fast food joint, go to the grocery store and make me something that'll last me 2 to 3 weeks. Make me some things that'll last me 2 or 3 weeks and still be okay.
So yeah, so I got a second off of what Mike Hayes is saying. Where was you eating at, bruh?
That's what I want to know.
Bruh, like listen, man, listen.
Fast Benny Hunters,
This was back when
Ruth Chris.
I was a listen, this was back when I was young. There's this mall here. I worked literally I had 2 or 3 jobs at a time.
Yeah.
So I thought I had the funds. Like I was working at 2 stores in the mall and then I would work at the Greyhound bus station. So I'm getting 3 checks. So I'm like, But in that time, I'm like, okay, I didn't have time to cook and I didn't even know what cooking was. So I just bought what I could while I had the funds and while I was out. I would punch out from one job, like when I was working at the mall, I would punch out from one store. Half hour later, I'd be walking into another store to punch in. So I would eat at the food court.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So it was like,
I
and
got
then
you.
when I saw it, when I actually mapped it out and I saw it, I was like, yeah, you wasting a lot of money. So I had to train myself to get up early or to take the one day where I didn't have to work all 3 jobs. Maybe if I had only had to work one, I would take that one day, prep, and then I would be okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. What about you, Ro?
Whoa, for me, I think I learned budgeting and how to manage my money at the same time because I went through a divorce, gone through a divorce, and I had to pay child support.
Mm.
And when you're paying child support, and I'm paying child support, like boom, and I'm paying like over $1,800 a month, and I think I was an E5. So I'm like, I ain't got no money. So now it's like, man, where the heck I'm gonna live?
Yeah.
Because I'm paying 1,800 here. I'm just barely making a little bit over that.
Yeah.
So I had to budget enough, and I had a first son who said, "Okay, yeah, you're an NCO, but you can live in the barracks." So he allowed me to stay in the barracks free, and everything. So I was good for a period of time. But that humbles you when you look and see where your money going, because when you are, especially as a parent, I didn't want to be that parent where when my kids say, Dad, I want some shoes. Dad, I want this. I didn't want to be like, well, ask your mom for that child support. I didn't want to be that dude.
Yeah.
So I would still give and still pay and still do things. And I'm looking like, and then it came to a point where you looking like, man, I'm being taken advantage of on one side over here or something. But I always wanted to make sure my kids were straight. If I had to suffer, that was fine. But that taught me to manage my money and pay me first. A
Yes.
lot of people pay bills first. Get in the mindset of paying self first. Put you on top of it. You making the money, you might as well pay you for it. I ain't saying go buy some shoes. Sit some money aside for savings.
Yeah.
For that, because that rainy day is coming. So
Absolutely.
sit that money aside. That's where I learned.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Like you, I want to kind of spin off of what you just said to pay you first, because that's the thing that I learned. But I learned it through understanding for me that there is a huge difference between wants and needs. It made me clearly identify my needs. Like, what are some of the things that I can do without for now so that I can actually get down to it later? And so my man, Michael Hayes, he kind of he's right on line with it, right? Budgeting creates that surplus for the things that you want because you've paid for the things that you need. Absolutely. That's where I was at. That was my eye-opening experience. It helped me to realize that the things that I was buying in surplus outside of my necessities, I didn't necessarily need those things. I can do without that. I can do without that. And then to go along with the idea of what you said, I made me a bill. So I became a bill. That way I could look at myself as a need. So I would just start sitting money away. I don't care if you start at $50 a month, young man, do it. Set aside $50. Back then, we used to call them slush funds. You know what I'm saying? Set aside $50 a month for a rainy day. Start on what we call a cash reserve now. That was one of the biggest things that I understand. You need to have something set aside just in case the what if happens. And so just being able to clearly identify within my spending habits the difference between want and need. And that's the thing that kind of that was my key moment for me, because once I did that, I realized that you know what, I can do this. It's not that bad. I can do this. And then I think, the eye-opening experience for me that helped me to understand that I was doing okay is when my daughter came to me one day. She's like, Dad, she said, can I have, I think it was like $20. And you know me, I gave it up. Girl, I ain't got no money. She said, come on, Dad, you always got money. I was like, wait, that was actually a sideways compliment. You know what I'm saying? But it was good to hear her say that because that's what she has in her mind. And so to me, that's why I got to say that. That's my eye-opening experience. Now, transitioning from the budget thing, we got to kind of get into the credit thing. And I kind of touched on mine earlier about the car piece, right? When we budget our money, we pay our bills, it kind of improves our credit. So we start getting eliminating debt, all that other stuff. So, Roland, I think you probably, I can't remember who started first last time, but when it comes down to credit, just establishing credit management, what was your big aha moment when it came down to that?
When it came to credit, I think early on I realized that I was going backwards in my bills because I was paying the minimum. I'm paying the minimum, but that interest is added on top. So I'm looking like, what, am I paying them anything? So I'm realizing when you max these credit cards out and you pay that little $50, you gonna owe 60 next month, and you're gonna start seeing where it's not helping your credit, nor is it helping your you pay off the bill. So I learned early on to you got to manage your cards and your spending habits and limits and everything. You have to manage them. And so if I got a card for say 10,000 in my head, I got a card for 3,000 because I'm not going over that. Because if I go over that, it's going to be a negative on my credit report.
Right.
So I'm looking. I look at everything as something going on my credit report because when COVID hit, I had children move back and everything like that, and then I had to take on extra bills, and so I'm like, oh, so I took a hit because the worst thing you can do is have late payments on your credit report. If you have late payments, 30% knock right there. So that's one of the worst things you can do. Pay something towards it, so they know you ain't just ducking and dodging. So you got to ignore the phone call like somebody knocking at your door asking, are you prepared for Jehovah's return? I'm a fool. I got it.
It's all good. It's all good, man. I got you. Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
Are we talking about credit?
Yeah, we're talking credit now.
My eye-opening moment was when I saw I was paying two different people at the same time. Roland is right. You should never go over. If you have a $10,000 card, you should never go over $3,000. That's 30% of your credit report. Now think about this: if you need the history and you need the credit, if you have a credit limit of say $1,000, what bill are you paying every month that you can put on that credit card that you can pay off plus get the points from your credit card? That's what I learned from credit. Like, yes, you're not supposed, and I learned the difference between the due date and the statement date. I learned the difference between those things. The due date is normally 2 to 3 weeks past what your statement date already pushed out. So if you can pay off your credit card balance by your statement date, what you paid will reflect instead of what you owe. I learned that doing credit repair. So yeah, I quit paying two people at the same time. I let other people's money pay my bills, and I paid the other people, and they wound up giving me money because I was paying them on time, and I didn't have to worry about nothing getting shut off.
I love it. I love it.
But
I,
this is stuff that we were never ever taught.
precisely. For me, I kind of gave earlier one of my issues, my hurtful moments, if you will, when it came down to credit, because I had tore it up. Because again, talking about college and those credit card pre-approved applications. Um, but here's the other side of that story. After I kind of got right and buckled down and focused on my credit, and then I started tracking credit. Like Roland said, one of the best things you can do is pay your bills. Another thing you can focus on is credit utilization as well. So whatever your accumulative is, like let's just say you have a overall credit buying power of, let's just say $70,000, right? You want to make sure that you're not 30% eating into that, whatever that looks like. And I think it's important, and especially when we start talking credit cards, I think it's important to make sure that you keep those numbers as low as you possibly can. So those numbers that Roland gave a few minutes ago was just spot on. What I learned is that once your credit is of a certain point, you can go anywhere you want to and tell them what you want. Listen, on the other side of the feeling I had when I had to take what they gave me, now when I go, I tell them what I want. If they don't have it, I go someplace else. It is to the point now that if I go and ask for a thing, they're like, well, we don't have that. But if you give us the time, we can get what you want. Good credit, you can make demands. That's the key. You don't have to settle for what they give you. You can go in there and tell them what you want, how you want it, and they will make it work because your credit power, your buying power is strong enough to support it. And you have the history that says, hey, this person is a good investment. Let's get them what they want so that they can keep coming back when they want another one. So that was the other side of it. And so what I can tell you now, and I don't want to forget what Breezy said. So Breezy, I didn't miss you. I seen you. Breezy said something that's very important. I want to make sure I bring it to the um why you laughing, man? You know Breezy, don't you?
I think I do. I
Yeah.
think I might know Breezy. I don't know if it's the same Breezy that I don't know if it's the same Breezy, but I know a Breezy. So I
Well,
think that might be him.
yeah, shout out to
Put a
Breezy.
one in the chat if it's Uncle Chris. Put a one in the chat if this is the Breezy that I know.
There you go. Shout out to Breezy because this is spot on. Financial literacy is the second most important thing that a young man can do. I want to stress that because let me tell you something. We have in our minds, and it's fixed, that young men provide and protect. Well, if you don't have financial literacy, there's not a whole lot of provision you're going to do. How are you going to buy a car or buy a house to put your family in? It's a very disheartening feeling for you, the man of the house, the provider, the protector, to say, hey, I want to buy this house for my family. But they say, nah, we can't give you that house. Your credit ain't good enough. How about you settle for this house? You understand what I'm saying? And so that's the piece that I want to make sure I address. So shout out to Breezy because that was an awesome statement and I love it. Um, so and again, my bad, Roland. Give me 2 seconds. I want to shout out to all of our listeners out there. I want to make sure that you guys know how much we appreciate you. Again, share it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if it's your first time. And again, keep hitting us in the chats, man, because this is some amazing points. Go ahead, sir. You have the floor.
Man, I was just gonna say, and that's the reason why. Like I think last show, a couple shows ago, I said pretty much that I don't know why because of my spending, impulse spending. I buy a car like every 2 years, every year and a half. And when I go there, the car people really don't like me. Well, the finance people don't, because when I go, they try to tell me whatever. I tell them, give me a price. I don't care what y'all talk about because I'm gonna take that price. I'm just going to the bank. I'm gonna go right across the freeway to the bank. Say, hey, I need a check. Give me a check for this. You can do that with good credit.
Absolutely.
With bad credit, you're gonna have to. Well, we're gonna see who gonna finance you, and we're gonna see this. And I like the credit cards and charge cards. You get It's about 10 of them right here.
Why do you have so many credit cards?
Because I have a business and I got 2 for the business, and I got, let's see, credit card. I got 2 debit cards, and then I got a few credit cards. Now the credit cards, one is a charge card / credit card, but it's a credit card. But you have them because when they look at your credit, when they pull up, when they pull up your report, what they want to see is if he can't pay these people, where can he get money from? So when they look at, they say, okay, he got a credit card for this. He got this amount and that amount. Because when you have houses under you, they looking like, okay, he has all of this debt. Okay, where can he pay us from if something happened? COVID hit again. Where can he pay us from? So they looking to see, because people say, well, you shouldn't have any credit card. No, you should have credit cards. You just shouldn't max them out. You should pay them on time. And that builds your credit. My sister, she helped teach me, because my sister, she runs an average of 820 something credit score. Absolutely. So when she go places, she like, people be, well, we don't know. Okay. It's just like Dwayne. I'll go somewhere else, because you're not about to run my credit just for GP when I know my credit. And she teaches me a lot when it comes to credit. So that's why I tell people, you got to get over that 750 and you're good.
Yeah, here's another point too, man. I'm glad you said that. When I say you can make demands when it comes down to credit, like most times you go buy a car, and I'm just going to talk about a car in particular. Most times you go buy a car, they're going to ask you, how much money are you putting down, right? When you got good credit, the answer is 0.
Right.
I'm not putting the money down. I don't need to put the money down. Putting money down is to knock the principal down, so that the bills are more manageable. Well, newsflash, the bill is not going to be much more manageable. Let's change the dynamics. For a house, when you put money down on a house, I'm trying to tell you, you're only knocking off like $1 or $2 per month on your mortgage payment. Just being honest. When you got good credit, you don't have to worry about putting money down. So let that be an incentive for the young men who are listening, for mamas with young boys, right? For the young teenagers, whatever. Start focusing on your credit now. I'm gonna give you a real quick tip I did for my daughter, and I thought of this as I was going to see her. We were taking her to the college, right? Because we was doing college trips, and so of course I'm a veteran, so she was going to get that veteran stipend. I knew that was going to be the case, and she was going to a community college, so the actual tuition wasn't that expensive. So her tuition would cover the tuition. Her stipend would cover the tuition. So I looked at her. I say, "You're going to apply for student loans." She's like, "But why, Dad? I don't need to." I say, "Trust me. Just hang out with me for a second." I had her apply for student loans. She got the tuition. She could take one, put it in the bank, let that draw interest every month, pay the tuition every quarter. At the end of graduation, she would have had a nest egg, to where once it's over said and done with, you wait 6 months, right? And then you pay it off with the money that you had in the bank. Now the interest is yours. The money that you got from student loan is paid off early, and you leave college with top-notch credit and a 4-year degree. You have to come up with creative ways to manage your credit, because I'm telling you, there is nothing like a 22-year-old young man that comes out of college with top tier credit. Telling you.
And another thing you do with your children, if they're responsible, what I do is I will add the children as users on the credit card, so they attain
like an authorized user.
Right. So they attain the history of it, because that's what they look for, longevity. They attain the history and the usage. If it's bad, keep them off of it. But good, yeah, put them on there. So now every month their credit is growing and looking good, because what happens is people get out of school with absolutely no credit and say, well, I ain't even did nothing. I ain't got no credit. Yeah, you don't have good credit. That's your credit.
So this is time
and simply because you add them as an authorized user doesn't mean you have to give them a card for your account.
Oh, I don't.
Absolutely.
No, this is something that I used to discuss a lot when I was working in credit repair. I'm like, you can add them as an authorized user, just don't give them a card. If you feel like they're going to be irresponsible with it, they can still build the history and the credit utilization off of it. But if you feel like they're going to blow your account if you give them a card, don't give them one. They can still benefit from it. They just can't use it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, this is the perfect time to give my disclaimer. We are not financial planners. We're only giving helpful tips to consider. So if you do it, we are not going to be held responsible for the outcome because we're not going to hold your hand through the process. We're simply giving you talking points so that you can talk to your, young man or your, teenage son or whatever about the importance of financial literacy. I think that's important to say first.
Yeah, we're simply sharing things that we didn't know.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's it.
Again, great points. Let me see. I love what we got going on here. So Michelle Ray says she ain't gonna ever put no money down on anything. I agree with that on that. Let me see. So Brother Gaddy, good to see you, man. He said that down payment is the discouragement for most to go get credit. Just start with something manageable. Great point. I love it. And thank you for sharing that. He's absolutely right. You know what I'm saying? Don't have them to rope you into something that, number one, you can't afford. That's one of the most important things you need to understand. Make sure that your budget is the driving force behind what you go purchase. Don't ever go buy something without considering your budget first. Let me see. Mr. Hayes said per thousand down equals about 8. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's almost a ridiculous comparison. It's almost better to find a program to where you don't have to put any money down on the house because you're not going to see any movement. And another piece, for those people who do own homes, add a little something extra to the principal as well. That'll actually help. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we talked budget. We talked credit. Let's talk what we call our cash reserve. So for cash reserve, and just in case, I want to make sure everybody have a clear understanding. When we start talking cash reserve is also considered that rainy day fund, like something you can actually reach at quick. I mean, really quick and grab it and then put it on something because there's a problem. Generally, a good rule of thumb is to have $1,000 someplace that you can reach. You don't necessarily touch it unless you need it. It's not to go buy the latest TV that's out there. I want to make sure I say that. It is for a significant event that you need. And then you also have another one to set aside. And that one is the 3 to 6 months bring home pay that you actually have set aside in another fund. So with that being said, gentlemen, tell me when you got wind of the concept of cash reserve, and then how did it strike you? Like, what did you do from that point on?
Well, for me, I went to Dave Ramsey's.
Get out of my head.
Financial Peace University. I got it. I got it on my bookshelf.
I got the book. I have the workbook. CDs, I got DVDs, the CDs, all of that.
Envelopes, yeah. So, and when you start putting those envelopes together, and you see that, make sure every penny that you earn has a specific place to go. So you don't have extra money like kids think, oh, you got some money. I do, but it ain't for your cause. And I'm a person where I don't have to have the newest shoes and all this other stuff that I don't keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Because people can look a certain way. I had an expedition and my daughter was like, Daddy, why you ain't got no rims on your expedition? And I'm like, well, the engineers say these rims good. And if I keep buying rims and stuff, you ain't gonna be able to get the shoes you want. So
because you was young enough to know the right car to buy, but grown enough not to put rims on it.
Yeah, for what? It's rolling cool.
Word to Jay-Z.
Rolling down the street, by the way. Just saying.
Yeah. But yeah, so I learned early when it came to stuff like that. And because when stuff happens, I hated seeing when I drive down the street, I see cars all dented up, the whole side, the whole front. I was driving home and I don't even park the people who cars messed up. I don't park next to them, excuse me. Because if I park next to them, I figure they don't care about opening their door, messing up mine. It got to be something real nice for me to park there. Not because I'm bougie or nothing, but because I don't want to come. You can have what, $250, $500 or $1,000. What's the thing you pay the insurance people? Your deductible.
Yeah.
And if you ain't got $500 deductible, you ain't doing or something. You need to sit down and save your money when you riding around in your car and it's looking raggedy because you don't have that money. That's when you know people ain't thinking right,
Right.
because you don't even have that. So that's why you, like you said, you got to have your little slush fund. You got to have your money set aside for incidentals. Something happened, you got to be able to pay it.
What you got, Chris?
He took the words out of my mouth. Dave Ramsey, listen. I was talking to a former pastor of mine, and I was telling him about all of my money problems. And he gave me the financial peace workbook. He gave me the book, the workbook. It came in a big gold box.
Yeah.
I got it in my bookcase right now. And then I started really diving into it. And then I started reading. I read Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. Then I saw a YouTube channel called Dave Ramsey 7 Baby Steps. And I'm like, this is all I need to do. I can do this.
Yeah.
I say this really isn't hard. All I had to do was sacrifice the nonsense that I didn't have no business doing no way.
Yeah.
So I mean, after that, I started really learning, like, okay, this is what I need to do for this. This is what I need for this. And I also learned that the first step, he says that the $1,000 fund that you were talking about, that money costs you money. That's how he put it. And I'm like, okay, well, if I got that, then I don't have to worry about if something crazy happened. And I can just keep going on about my business. Like if my transmission were to blow, I could say, that sucks.
Yeah.
Let me go to my Fidelity fund real quick and draw this out and then take it up to Ford and then have them do what they need to do. You understand what I'm saying? Like I don't have to panic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's really what it was. It was like the security of knowing that if something really, 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 really major were to happen, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
I love it. I love it. Shout out to Financial Peace University, Dave Ramsey. Listen, if you don't know who Dave Ramsey is, Google him, look him up. Look up Financial Peace University. I think it may cost like at the most $300, maybe $2. I might be a little on the high end. I can't remember. But like you guys, I went and got Dave Ramsey. Now, again, remind you, I said that I would read stuff. So I had the idea of the 3 to 6 month bring home pay set aside for a rainy day. I'd already known that, right? But then when I started getting into Dave Ramsey stuff, I started learning some other stuff as well. And so I was like, okay, that's where the whole $1,000 piece came in at, and all the things that Chris was just talking about. He just kind of shed some different lights on some things that was in my head, and I was already working some things, but just didn't get all the way there. No, go ahead, Chris.
I just went to Dave Ramsey's site for the financial piece. It's $80 for the site.
It went down.
Oh, and by the way, let me put the disclaimer out here. None of us are getting paid to say this.
No.
This is not an advertisement. This is not an endorsement. We are not being sponsored by him. We're just saying that a lot of the stuff that he teaches works.
It does. And again, a little background about Dave. I think Dave is a pastor that decided to look at how to take what's in the Bible and apply those principles to financial understanding and financial literacy. And that was one of the main reasons why I got Financial Peace, because he made it all tie together. I'm like, okay, sound reasonable. Let me take a look at it. And as I dug into it, I couldn't find a lie anywhere. Go ahead, Ro.
And I support my black businesses and everything. It's this sister, I seen her on something, and I bought her books. This sister, keeping the score, she did that in a workbook. Her name is Constance Carter, and because if you get Dave Ramsey, he will teach you principles, but these books actually give you examples of letters to send off to the companies, right?
The creditor letters and debt collector letters and things like that.
So that's what I used to do
for a living.
Right. So you don't have to, because if not, you're gonna end up paying somebody $100-some a month to fix your credit when you can do it yourself. And so whether you pay Dave, whether you pay Constance Carter, and just for a book and information and example letters, that's something that everybody has to do. And check your credit at a minimum quarterly. Minimum. Because just yesterday, I was I don't know where I was driving, and my watch went off, and one of my credit cards asked me. No, I was at the store, and they asked me if I was using a certain credit card, and I said no, because I wasn't. They asked me was I on Amazon using a credit card. I said no, so they canceled that card right then because they knew I wasn't buying nothing on Amazon, and they gonna send me enough because people get your credit cards easily nowadays.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not to mention when you see like debt collectors on your credit report, those debt collectors bought your debt for pennies on the dollar. You will be messing around and paying. Say you have a $5,000 collection. That debt collector probably bought that debt for $30, and they're trying to get that $5,000 up off of you.
Yeah. Yeah. All great points. And I love it.
Let me
We're going
stop
to
because I could go
no,
all the
you
way into
good.
this.
You good. We're gonna put you on. We're gonna put you on with that particular conversation in particular, because I just believe credit is just that important. So I think we probably need to dedicate some time just to talk purely credit one day. Um, but Roland, what I want to do is take the information from those books. I want to put that in
I'm
the
putting
show
it in
notes.
YouTube right now.
Okay.
You
Oh,
can
you
put it
dropped
in
the
here.
link?
Yeah. I want to put in the show notes. We're also going to put the links to Dave Ramsey. Again, we're not getting paid for any of this. Again, these are just resources to get these young men started off life right. Because again, Breezy told us earlier, and I agree with him 100%, that listen, a young man being financially literate is probably one of the most important things that he can do because again, that young man is supposed to take care of a family. How can I take care of a family if I don't necessarily have the resources? So that's important to understand. We're running low on time, gentlemen, and I wanted to kind of touch on some of these comments, and then I want to put something up, and then I kind of want to talk about this last piece from this particular perspective. Um, and you know what? It's funny because it looks like they've already started talking about where I want to go. So I love it.
Oh
I
shoot.
mean, you guys are awesome, man. For
Man,
real.
your
I'm telling
chat is
we,
phenomenal.
bro,
Like I really like your chat.
we got the best audience on the planet, man. I love them. So this is what I want to do, right? And then we can go and kind of touch on the chat. I believe our environment is so important, right? Because again, I talked about in the beginning, I didn't see what wealth looked like. I didn't necessarily get a lot of these conversations in the beginning. And there's an old saying, like if you really want to know, what your potential is, look at what is it, the three people that you spend the most time around, and whatever the sum total of their incomes are, that's what yours will eventually be, or something of that nature. I probably got it wrong. But
They from what I hear is like if you hang with 5 millionaires, you'll become the sixth one. But if you hang with
yes,
5 bums, you'll become the sixth bum.
yes,
Yeah, something
yes.
like that. Yeah.
That is the practical piece. But so here you go. Everybody ready? I want everybody to
Oh
take a
shoot.
look at this. I like brain teasers, right? So take a look at this real quick. And I want, especially you guys in the chat, hit us up in the chat too and tell us what your thoughts are. I want to show this and I want you to tell me how this relates to financial literacy. Ready?
The hierarchy of needs. Hmm.
So as you're looking at this, think about how this relates to financial literacy and why is it important for every man besides what we already talked about, right? Besides what Breezy already told us in the beginning. Shout out to Breezy again. I definitely appreciate that. And besides everything else that everybody else talked about, why is it important for men to understand financial literacy as it relates to this?
Mm.
Do I need to leave it up? You guys want me to leave it up?
No, I'm good with
You good? Want me to put it back up, Chris?
I'm pulling it up now on my phone.
it.
Chris is a statistician, man. I'm telling you.
Man, I used to have this on my I used to have this in a folder because all of this ties financial literacy ties into all of this. It does.
Yeah, because when you
It's
think
part
about your poorer communities, your poorer communities they may think they have high self-esteem, but it's a depression that when I go home to Detroit, it's a depression that looms over the city because it's poverty stricken.
Yeah.
And when you have money to do what you want, not to showboat this, that, and other, but all of those, your physiological needs are taken care of. whether it's food, shelter, there you go, food, shelter, then health, employment, property, family, friends. You have better relationships when you have your money together. When you had your money together and ain't nobody calling you, and you ain't owing nobody, you ain't ducking and dodging. It feel bad when you can't answer your phone because you don't know who called. And then you up that line. I was one of them where when I seen the call, because remember, we didn't have call ID back in the day. I answered the phone, be like, hola. Be like, ¿cómo está? Like, no, they asked for Roland. And no. See, I speak another language. I don't have to do that no more.
Yeah.
I can sit up there, answer the phone, and tell the people, no, I don't want it. Because all they doing is calling, trying to sell you something nowadays. And that's better for your esteem, for real. Because when
it all ties together. You feel a whole hell of a lot better about yourself when you got money in your pocket and you can go do what you want to do.
Yeah, people always say, well, you got that gray from worrying. No, my mama got a head full of gray hair.
That's wisdom. That is wisdom.
I don't know. I've been a fool a lot longer than I've been wise, so I don't know. No.
That's what made you wise, because you've been a fool so many times.
Yeah.
There you go. What you got for me, Chris?
If you want to start from the bottom, you have to have some semblance of money to even exist. Like, you got to have money for the roof over your head. You got to have money to put food in your refrigerator. You got to have money to put clothes on your back, even if they ain't the latest threads. At least you have clothes on your back. Yeah. Understand what I'm saying? You got to have money for car insurance. You got to have money for life insurance. You got to have money for phone insurance. You got to have money for renter's insurance. So those are your safety needs right there. And when you have those two things, that foundation, you know that, okay, you're okay. You're not worried about nothing else. So you can actually go and do stuff. So you can go build relationships. You can go say hi to people. You can go have a drink at the local bar. You can go to the club if you want to. You can go to that ball downtown that the mayor's throwing that you want to go to. You understand what I'm saying? And then your self-esteem is up because you get to go to these places and meet all of these people. And then when you realize, I got my stuff together because I got my foundation laid out. And with my foundation laid out, I can use what I got extra to put aside and do this. But then I got extra to go do that. You already know what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's the self-actualization piece.
I love it.
But a lot of people, and here's why I'm glad Roland brought up Detroit. Because I'm an hour away. I'm an hour away from Detroit.
Wait, what?
Listen, man, I saw that too. I ain't even paying no attention. A lot of people think you having your stuff together is throwing it in their face because they don't.
Yeah.
You can block them too, by the way.
Yep, I'm about to.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you should make me a moderator so I can do it. I got an itchy trigger finger all the time. You should. I'm a moderator on MTR's channel. You should see me. I snipe them all the time. But yeah, a lot of people think that you having your stuff together means that you are uppity or you feel like you're better than them. And it's like, no, I'm not better than you. I'm not better than you. I just gained the knowledge that I wasn't taught. And I used it instead of sitting around waiting on somebody to give me something.
Oh, and another thing, I used to be approached, when people think you got money or whatever, they approach you. And I will tell people, if they come to me and say, hey, do you have money for this, that, and other? I will say no and not feel bad if I don't have it for that, because all of my money is allocated, whether it's going to my savings or whatever. I don't have it. I don't eat Girl Scout cookies. No, I'm not buying no Girl Scout cookies.
Sometimes my weakness.
I don't eat them. So no. Now, sometimes some friends, they kids come over. I'm a gadget person, so I have money allocated for that stuff. But if I don't have it allocated and all my little slush fund for buying mess this month is gone, hit me up next month. Because the school's going to hit you up. Like my grandson took pictures the other day. $40 for some pictures for him to do a little crooked smile. But, hey, I want to bring the picture back when he's 25.
Buy the Girl Scout cookies for the kids, man.
I'm a sucker for tag-alongs, man. I am such a sucker for tag-alongs. Oh, my God. Let me stop.
Hey, check it out. So this is kind of, so I'm going to show it again, right? Because I want to make sure that we clearly understand this. And this is the thing that I wish I got earlier. This again, when we start talking a hierarchy of needs, and we talked about it earlier, right? The difference between understanding the difference between needs and wants. Sometimes our wants will have us to exist beyond our needs. Your needs must be met for you to move up in this chart here. So once my physiological needs and my safety needs are met, then I can exist in the space of loving and belonging without worrying about safety and physiological. The danger behind that is that if those needs aren't met, I am going to use someone to get my needs met. The danger for young men, if they don't have their physiological needs met, if they don't have their safety needs met, they will find someone else and tie themselves to that person so that they can meet those needs for them. That's dangerous. So we got to make sure that these young men understand, make sure, and you will hear it if you listen closely. This is all these men are saying. Build self first. Be better, do better, have better, believe better, exist better, so that when you tie yourself to someone, you're not dragging them down a hole with you. You're bringing them to a space where they're safe, where they feel safe, where they're psychologically comforted and all that other great stuff, so that now we don't have to worry about these things back here. You're not worrying about how the bill's getting paid. You're not worrying about somebody knocking on the door and at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're not worried about somebody not
Your car
protecting the
alarm
home.
going off
You're
because
not.
somebody came and towed your car.
Absolutely.
Or you got
Yeah,
to park it in the garage so they won't get it.
all those
Right.
things. So when we literally understand what that looks like, I think what we can actually help those men to understand, and I say it all the time, and I'm gonna keep saying it, right? They need to marry their purpose and pursue their calling. Then what you'll find out when they are mentally, emotionally, and psychologically, mental and psychologically, right? When they're mature and ready, that person will show up at the exact time. By that time, they will be in loving and belonging. They're not worried about how these things have to work because now I'm here. Hopefully, this person I meet is here as well. So I'm not rushing to the finish line. We're taking the time to learn one another so that we can now get to the point to where we can get to self-actualization together because our esteem is intact. So I think this is important to understand when it comes down to financial literacy because it all factors in. Have you ever seen a person who's extremely happy and always joy and have great relationships, but they're worried about the bills getting paid? They're worried about somebody coming and taking their car to the driveway. They're worried about an eviction notice that's on their apartment. Probably not, because worry is a killer. And we talked about that on several occasions. So that's just my perspective when it comes down to how financial literacy fits into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Again, going back to Breezy's statement, because I think Breezy's spot on. Again, it is one of the most important things that young men need to focus on now. It's not a money focused thing. It is an awareness thing. It's an understanding thing. It is a thing to where that young man can get to the point where he understands that, hey, my family depends on me. My family needs me. And the last thing I ever want to do is fail them because not only am I responsible to my parents, I'm also responsible to her parents as well. So I love everything that everybody says. Again, man, shout out to you guys in the chat, man. You guys are laying it down.
Your chat is amazing. Tawami said we going places because we got spam.
Man,
That's what's up.
man, that caught
We
me off
about to
guard, bro. I'm
make
like,
it.
wait, what?
Like,
Hey,
it's the number
man.
one? Nah.
Listen, man. Listen, again, great Friday to everybody. I thank everybody for being a part of the show. Again, subscribe, like, share, tell other people who haven't been a part of the show yet, man, because we want to hear from them. As you can see, we love your feedback. We love your comment. Shout out to Michelle Ray. Shout out to Sharina. Hey, Sharina, how you doing? Good to have you. Shout out to Sharina. Shout out to Mr. Michael Hayes, man. Shout out to Mr. Gaddy. You know what I'm saying? I always love to see you, brother. And just shout out to Cassandra as well, man. We appreciate you guys and look forward to seeing you guys every Friday. Before we go, gentlemen, I want to give you a few minutes to give your last words on understanding. And I want to change the concept now, understanding financial literacy.
Okay. Understanding financial literacy. I think because this is a site to uplift men, young men, you already know understand that when it comes to dating, or anything that you go to do, you're going to have to spend money. Don't surround yourself with leeches. Don't surround yourself with takers. Don't surround yourself with, if a woman says, well, if you can't pay for me and my girls and all this other stuff, kick her to the curb. Because I'm serious, kick her to the curb. Because I know people who say, well, if I bring 5 girls, he should be able to afford it.
4 of them is going to be hungry.
Exactly. Because I'm like, I ain't dating y'all. Now,
it may be 5 if I feel like leaving.
If you're generous like that, but you have to marry yourself, as in link up with someone who has a like mindset. If you're trying to go places, if you're trying to build, you don't have to go to Ruth Chris and spend $300. You don't have to go to whatever. If money is already the basis of your relationship, right off the rip, something is wrong. You should establish your money by yourself. And then when you link up with someone, then you see where they are. And I'm a person where you need to get credit scores, because you don't want to link up. If you are going to link up, it's to help build up. Whoever you're around, you help build up. And if they got a 430 and they riding nice and can't afford ramen noodles, but they happy, they want to go to every club and stuff. No, you got to set your mind on things that's higher than where you are right now. And you'll start to see that you will elevate yourself automatically with who you're around, and you'll elevate the people's thinking that you are around.
I love it. I love it. What you got for me, Chris?
Oh, it's on me? Okay.
Yes,
financial literacy. First things first, understand credit. Understand it, study it, memorize it. Understand that cash is king, but credit is power. If you have credit and you good with your money, you can literally do whatever you want. And I'm going to leave on this note. You are not missing out on anything if what you're missing out on, quote unquote, is removing you from your purpose in life. It is okay to not go to the hot spot because you got to work. It's okay to chill at home because you might have some extra money, but you know going to this spot is going to be a waste of it. You are not missing out on anything if you are pursuing your purpose, because all of that stuff you are missing out on in the grand scheme of things is going to be like meh, because I missed out on this, but I got here, and everybody that went there is here. I'm good. Pursue your purpose. You will never go broke pursuing your purpose, ever. And you will never lose women pursuing your purpose, but you will lose your purpose pursuing a woman. Sorry, but not sorry. And women and mamas get out the way. Let these boys get out here and make some money. Let these boys get out here. Let these boys get out here and know what it's like to actually earn a check instead of waiting for an allowance.
Stop. That's one thing I always say. Don't ever, this is me, if you have a son, don't ever just give him anything. He got to work for it. If he get in his mind at an early age, I don't care whether it's cutting the grass, whether it's keeping his room clean, whatever chores around the house, but he has to work for everything he needs.
Make that boy get up and go make some money. Let him know what it's like to work, because he's going to have to do it anyway. We're men. We're supposed to work. We don't have a choice. Ain't nobody giving us nothing. So get out the way and let these boys work.
So you guys know. Now, you know today's show would not be complete if Chris didn't tell the mom to get out the way. I just want to say that. Listen, man, I want to.
And it's not a knock. It's not a knock. It's not an attack. I'm a product of a single mom home. So I'm speaking from the experience of a product of a single mom home. You got to get out the way and let these boys know what it's like to get their hands dirty.
I love it. I love it. I will kind of go a different way, if you will. I brought up Maslow's hierarchy of needs for a very important reason. I think it's important that we understand that life is lived progressively through the lens of our awareness. So what we have to do is put ourselves in a position, young men, so that you can continue to gain in your awareness. So that's why I wanted to bring that to the table, because all of these things that we talked about are important. You're going to have to understand about budgeting. You're going to have to understand credit. You're going to have to understand investments as well, which we didn't talk about, but that's also going to be a part, because let's be honest, these guys hit the nail on the head. Men work, but it's going to come a point in time where you're going to get tired of working. Hey, I'm in my 50s. I don't want to work no more. So I should have already had the investments that set the condition that when it's time for me to step away from work and me and mama want to go and travel, we should be able to go travel. Start working on that now. I say that because it's important. The most important investment that you can ever make is in yourself. Sow in yourself now so you can grow. Once you get a family, then you and your family sow in your family, you and your spouse sow into your relationship so you can grow. The progression is sow, grow, sow. You sow so you can grow, so you can sow. You just keep doing it. Don't worry about the return now. Just keep sowing. I think Mr. Hayes talked about it earlier. Set money aside. Continue to do that. Sow into yourself. Then you're going to get to the point where you two collectively, as a unit, husband and wife, can sow into other people. The last thing I'm going to leave with you: never put the gift above the giver. The giver is always more important than the gift. Once you start valuing the gift more than you value the giver, do not be surprised when the giver stops giving, just to see how you respond. With that being said, thank you again, every last one of you. All of you guys in the chats, man. I love you guys. You guys are just awesome. Shout out to you guys. I want you guys to have a great and wonderful day. Everybody, I mean, just make sure that you come back next Friday. Bring some more friends. Tell everybody to subscribe. We look forward to talking to you. Shout out to the most hyped, to the most live panel on the planet, man. Rolling down the street, and Chris across the table, on the other side of the table, like I call him. Right? Shout out to you guys, man. He on the other side of the table, man. We don't stay across. We don't stay across the table, my friend. He on the other side. Listen here, man. I thank you guys. You guys, as always, are amazing. And again, look forward to seeing each and every one of you again next Friday, right here on the Hearts of Men podcast.